Warning, parental advisory is recommended. Oh, just listen.
This is a Say Sahan Dynamite Productions.
Huff! Huff! Huff!
Hold up.
Ahlan, beautiful beings. Thank you for downloading and listening. Please follow, rate, and subscribe to Lyrical Spit on most of your major platforms. And feel free to send your MP3 music and info to email address lyricalspit@gmail.com. We also have a Lyrical Spit 24-hour hotline, 360-200-8779. And you know what? You may just hear your voice message on the show. Help keep the show free by buying some of our swag apparel at butcherspit.com. And if that's too much to take in, that's okay. You can get all of our show links at lyricalspit.com. This is volume 14 of Lyrical Spit, and I'm broadcasting live from my compound in Tacoma, Washington. I am your host, the Beast from the Middle East, the Yemeni maniac, the modern-day sheikh, and a proud Yemen American, Diafullah The Butcher Dobashi. I'm not a sports entertainer. I'm a professional wrestler who loves to entertain. I will be right back and chat with you all and let you know what I've been up to right after Yemekinght in Vision.
If you only have 24 hours in a day, your success is dependent upon how you use the 24.
Yeah, confidence, perseverance, intelligence, self-awareness. Okay. I keep the heat coming like a furnace. Do you even want to know how I earn this? I'm the silence of the lambs. I get grimy as I'm rising from the sands. You can't see me on demand. I come see you when I can. I'm the sheikh of the land with a paradise. I roll them and I bet for a paradise in the afterlife. People sacrifice their life for the mass appeal. Okay. Kings turn to dust in a minute, better know the deal. You reap what you sow, get what you give. Karma's a bitch, you don't know how to forgive. I choose to live and learn. How you feel about me is none of my concern. I see myself in a castle. I see myself on a yacht. I see myself getting money so much I can never say stop. Cause I got my team with me right now, and I got my fam with me right now. Only got 24 hours in the day, gotta use every minute right now. So static, I cause havoc, fake shit, I can't have it. I'm above average when it comes to rhyming. I'm a savage, I rip the beat up, then put your feet up. Cause I came in about to lift the scene up and burn a roof off this motherfucker. Don't get it confused, I'm a man of my word. My tongue will slice ya, sharper than a sword. And when it comes to rap, I am the Lord. So you better stop praying, I'm not playing, I'm just saying I'm insane. I jump around the house of pain, spray my name on the walls, yeah. Middle finger to the haters, man, fuck them all. Go deep into your consciousness, I expose the truth like anonymous. Don't be fooled, ignorance is not a bliss. Just close your eyes and envision this, yeah. I see myself in a castle, I see myself on a yacht. I see myself getting money so much I can never say stop. Cause I got my team with me right now, and I got my fam with me right now. Only got 24 hours in the day, gotta use every minute right now. Nowadays, you don't need to be in shape to get the cake. Long as you got 100K on your Instagram page. Hold on, wait, not everybody's destined to be great. That's okay, don't be ashamed. You can blame God for not giving you that DNA. Read between the lines, everything is just a game, huh? I'm not a watcher, motherfucker, I'm here to play. Survival of the illest, are you ill enough to roll with us? Jump off the boat with us. There's a big difference between living and staying alive. I'm seeing the world from a different eye. Let go of the ego, keep the love alive wherever we go. Whether you're rich or broke, no one's invincible. No matter the obstacle, I'ma get my dough, yeah. I see myself in a castle, I see myself on a yacht. I see myself getting money so much I can never say stop. Cause I got my team with me right now, and I got my fam with me right now. Only got 24 hours in the day, gotta
Finances, the other F word. Music, money, news.
I'm Mello, sitting in for Zoe Terry, and here's your FOFW music news. The Pretty Reckless has hit a new high of female-fronted rock and roll bands as their new song, Death by Rock and Roll, hits the #1 spot. The track became the Pretty Reckless's 5th #1 hit, pulling them ahead of Hailstorm, fronted by Lizzie Hale. In other news, across the pond, British artists have signed a strongly worded letter against racism. The letter in part states, quote, "We, the British music industry, are proudly uniting to amplify our voices, to take responsibility, to speak out and stand together in solidarity. Silence is not an option," end quote. The letter was signed by music managers, agents, and labels, but it is unclear of the desired outcome. And finally, be on the lookout for the documentary on Cream magazine, monikered America's only rock and roll magazine. This was a gritty, dirtier cousin to the commercialized Rolling Stone rock magazine. The Detroit-based magazine was launched in the 1970s and widely circulated off mainstream circuits. The documentary features Alice Cooper, Joan Jett, Kirk Hammett, Michael Stipe, Chad Smith, and Iggy Pop. I'm Mello, and that was your FOFW Music News.
Until next time, follow us on social media at Finances, the other F word.
Well, I haven't had a professional wrestling match since this whole coronavirus lockdown. Since day one, I've been getting some flack from some people for posting memes, Epstein didn't kill himself memes. Like I said, I've been doing it since day one. But you know what? I am still posting them. And the reason I did, and you know what? I'm still doing it. So people would not forget about this whole sex trafficking fiasco, since the media seems to sweep it under the rug. So since I have all this time and I haven't been wrestling, I've been going into a huge, big rabbit hole. And this is even bigger than I ever imagined. I just want to say thank you to Jeff Johnson, Christy Elizabeth, and each and every one of you who has been spreading awareness. I do apologize. There's just too many names to list, but I do appreciate each and every one of you. Please share this hashtag Save Our Children. Later on this show, my guest, Candace Burke-Parrot. She's an advocate for anti-sex trafficking and Executive Director of Freshwater, and Public Awareness Co-Chair for the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force. Here's a nationwide number you could use if you suspect any human sex trafficking. The number is 1-888-373-7888. You could check out all these artists you hear today on the show. You could check out their videos on YouTube. Check out their music on SoundCloud. I will be right back right after Certainly Pretty Eyes.
Hello to the voice I've come to know. I've had you in my head since I can remember. Down the pages that I wrote, I hope to see my book can be the starting note. I find myself caught in temporary love.
Yo, what's good? It's your girl Zelly Vibes, and you're listening to Lyrical Spit. You can follow me at Zelly Vibes on Instagram or all platforms, or www.zellyvibes.net.
I want to know what you are doing to keep you and or your family sane during this whole coronavirus epidemic shutdown. As you know, we have a Lyrical Spit 24-hour hotline. The number is 360-200-8779, where you can submit questions or leave a message that may be played on this show. Well, obviously, this is a wrong number, but I thought I would share it. Here we go.
You have one new message.
So there is no money in my bank account. I'm at zero, and there are fees, and it goes to a minus 45. What is the principle behind this? Can someone tell me what is the principle behind it? When you have no money, the banks, it takes more money out of your pocket, and you're now in the need. Can there be any other way? A credit, a point of honor system? I don't know. So if there's any banker out there, someone that could explain to me this nonsense, thank you. Donald, keep it up. Nice work. Let's go, man. Nice.
Well, I wish I had the answers, buddy. I will be right back right after Zelly Vibes. Neck froze.
Oy, oy, oy. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana. I wanna look at the star. I wanna buy me a ring. I'ma go get it myself and get my family straight. I'm in the rover with Evelyn. At the W, they treat us heavenly. Ain't no rapper, they loving my melody. Don't fuck with you, I ain't showing no empathy. Better than share my specialty. I got a player right next to me. You wasting my time, you the enemy, bitch, you a joke. You don't want smoke. Call your bitch doing coke. None of us broke. Change them on my phone. Sin City we own. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana. My neck froze, it's so cold, yeah. Diamonds white, look like snow, yeah. My neck froze, it's so cold, yeah. Diamonds white, look like snow, yeah. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana. Ven que te quiero en mi cama. Neck froze, call me Ana. Pay me today, no mañana. Cater to me like I'm Princess Diana.
Finances, the other F word. Music, money, news.
I'm Mello, and here is your FOFW Money News. Uber is appealing a decision by a California judge to require the company to consider its drivers as full-time employees and not independent workers. Lyft and Uber are in the same boat if the appeal is denied, as both companies have similar employment structures. If the appeal in the court system fails, Uber and Lyft's fate will be left up to California voters as part of Proposition 22. Drivers being considered full-time employees would mandate that Uber and Lyft provide benefits and unemployment insurance for workers. If Uber and Lyft are ultimately on the losing side of the argument, they will be suspending service in California while changes can be made to comply with the new system. This will most likely mean that services will be limited to more concentrated areas. In other news, COVID-19 continues to be the catalyst of change for many sectors. Pharmaceuticals are now on the sites as people want access to potential COVID treatments at a reasonable price. Some ideas floated have been government intervention in placing price caps on drugs. Big Pharma has said that they need the higher drug prices to fund cutting-edge research for potential cures to ailments. This discussion is heating up as people are still struggling to find employment in our recent recession. At this time, drug makers have pledged to offer the eventual COVID vaccine at around $15. And finally, a new study finds that despite most millennials living through two major economic occurrences, present day and 2008, they remain optimistic on their chances to pull out decent returns from investing in the stock market. As your brother Generation X, we are all rooting for you. I'm Melo, and that's your FOFW Money News.
Until next time, follow us on social media at Finances the Other F Word.
I want you to check out Finances the Other F Word, the podcast, hosted by my homegirl Mel O. She also has a book that's titled Finances the Other F Word, and she will be on this show very, very soon. I'm currently reading the book, and man, it's hard to put it down. The show is great, and I guarantee you this. That show, the podcast, is not for snowflakes. Mel and Zoe take finances to another level with music and other great stuff. Check it out on all major platforms. I will be right back with Candace Burke-Parrot right after Bakar, Hell and Back.
Tell where my head was at when you found me. Me and you went to hell and back just to find peace. Man, I thought I had everything, I was lonely. Now you're my everything, I was lonely. I missed a lot of love with a lot of drugs, then I found you. She liked petty crime, she had green eyes like Mountain Dew. And where she go, I'll never know, her friends bounce to. I guess it's their loss, cause they'll never know what we'll amount to. And would you be my light, be my yellow? PYT walking down Portobello, put a smile on his face at the end of the day. MDMA helped us fly away. Who'd have known you would save my life? Who'd have known you would fly my kite? Could you tell, could you tell? Could you tell? Could you tell where my head was at when you found me? Me and you went to hell and back just to find peace. Man, I thought I had everything, I was lonely. Now you're my everything, I was lonely. Yeah, yeah, I remember I was all alone. Late night you would call my phone just to check if I was blessed, cause you knew I was low. Head gone rolling off the throne. I remember we was in the park. Late night made love on the grass. Got my head in the clouds counting all my stars. In my ear said the world was ours. Went to hell and back just to heal my wounds, cause it gets like that. Wrong side of the moon, no Tutankhamun, you're my Cleopatra. No side thing, don't need a backer. Need a real one, don't need an actor. A lost one's fate, think you want a BAFTA. Come and be my girl. Yeah. Could you tell where my head was at when you found me? Me and you went to hell and back just to find peace. Man, I thought I had everything, I was lonely. Now you're my everything, I was lonely. Yeah, yeah,
smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped off life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
I am excited to have here on Lyrical Spit my guest. She's an advocate for anti-sex trafficking and Executive Director of Freshwater's and Public Awareness Co-Chair for the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force. I am proud to have here on the show Candace Burke-Parrot. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on your busy schedule. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Well, before we get started, are you ready for me to spin the first timer's random question wheel for your first question to break the ice?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel just like Wheel of Fortune. Here we go. Totally random. Okay, here we go. Rip the envelope out. Okay. What meal would you rather eat on a hot summer night? A tuna melt, raw oysters in a half shell, or a BLT, and why?
Raw oysters on the half shell.
Now, why is that?
Because I like raw oysters on the half shell. My second would be tuna melt. How about that?
That sounds good. That does sound good on a hot night. Summer night, nice chilled, little Tabasco sauce, a little bit of lemon. Yep. Okay.
There you go. You have horseradish and you're good.
Well, you know, I'm known for posting Epstein didn't kill himself memes because I was afraid of people forgetting about this whole horrific sex trafficking. Then I haven't been traveling or had a professional wrestling match since this whole coronavirus shutdown, which got me into this huge rabbit hole on child human sex trafficking, the whole nightmare. Now, thank you for coming on. I already told you once, but I'll tell you again, thank you. And I want to give a shout out to Heather Neal for connecting us. And
yes, thank you, Heather.
And please tell us about yourself and where did you grow up and why and how did you get involved in being an advocate for this human sex trafficking?
Well, Dobashi, this is something that is very, very dear to my heart. I was born and raised in England and came to the U.S., and I have always been an advocate. So I work with at-risk youth. I've worked as a CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate for our foster children, as well as the Victim Assistance Sexual Assault Person volunteer. I was introduced to the sex trafficking issue probably about 12 years ago, and just could not believe the horrific things that were going on. It's still amazing to me that in 2020, so many people are still not aware. That's why I say thank you for allowing me to come on and do this, because the more aware we are, the more we can change this. And so as Freshwaters, I'm as a life coach for the trafficking victims. So I work very closely with them to help them get out of the life and into real life. I serve as a co-chair for the public awareness for the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force. And under that task force, there are several counties within Maryland that have task force. We work very closely with other task forces, be it DC and other states, because as we know, the victims are trafficked from state to state. So it really is important that the agencies, et cetera, come together and work very closely.
Wow. Well, so you cover the whole United States from coast to coast?
We do. Now, Maryland is obviously, it covers all of Maryland. Very often we'll get victims or survivors under the task force, which is headed by Ina DeCow, our U.S. attorney here in Baltimore. But she does a very good job of managing the task force. And so we have different committees one being public awareness, legislation, so we fight for the different laws to get changed. And so when I was asked to serve on the public awareness, it was huge to me to be able to do it because we have victims that are taken from Maryland. The 95 corridor is huge because they can go be in New York, in a matter of hours, Jersey, the Yemekinght, DC, you're going south, you can go North Carolina. And then we have a lot of the pockets, such as the casinos and the airports. So when you talk about trafficking and in traveling, it slowed down quite a bit because of COVID. When I say the traveling has slowed down, but the trafficking has increased. So, when you say that you're not traveling as much, then the corridors and the highways become that way of them being able to get the victims to the Johns and getting them to wherever they need to be able to service the people. So the awareness to me is very dear and near to my heart because our kids are truly being trafficked beyond belief.
Wow. Well, so obviously, COVID has affected, the sex trafficking. Does it make it harder to find these victims because everyone's, been asked to wear a mask?
Well, I think what happens with COVID, I think what people don't realize with our children, they're not in school. So as we very often say, when they're in school, they have a way of at least being able to reach out to somebody, and they also have a way that, they get that meal and they get that service. Well, when you've got vulnerable children and they're not getting those meals and they're not getting that attention, now they're home or hanging out with their friends, they are far more vulnerable. So the traffickers really prey on that. So when we talk about the social media, what are they doing? They're on social media 24/7. So they're reachable. So when we've got these older men posing as younger men, and these young girls are being recruited by their friends, and tell people, when these trafficking victims, the kids go to school, they're not going to school to learn, they're going to recruit. So when they're not in school and they're hanging out with their friends, they're being recruited in that environment. So that's why we say to parents, it really is key for you to be aware of what your children are doing, who they're communicating with, and who they're reaching and who's reaching them on social media.
Oh, okay. Now, like I said, I haven't been traveling much for wrestling, since the whole COVID shutdown. But once I start traveling again, and once sports start opening up and fans go out to, football and basketball and all that other stuff, what can we look for, signs of, people getting trafficked and what is, what time of the year, is there such thing as a time of the year where it runs more rapid than others?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. What people don't realize when we ask, what's the number one day, the highest rate for trafficking victims, and when we tell you it's Super Bowl, people are always blown away by that.
Are you serious? Super Bowl?
Yes, the Super Bowl is the number one day for the highest rate in sex trafficking. And that's because, all the adverts, all the commercials, you can order what you want when it comes to sex trafficking. So there are so many different areas. So when we all know that sex sells and sports, what happens with the Super Bowl, right? It's sports, it's alcohol, it's sex, it's all of that. So, it's high dollar. It's absolutely high dollar. So that's why people need to realize that Super Bowl is the number one day.
So how do they traffic them during Super Bowl? Is there like a website, or is it like the dark web, secret society?
The dark web is one of them. I'm sure a lot of people that know about human trafficking are very familiar with that page. That page was shut down here within the last 2 years, but it took a long fight to get that shut down. And when I tell you, you could shop on that page for whatever you wanted, well, that was a double-edged sword for some people, because as much as we needed to shut it down, that was also our way to find our victims. If they got back into the life, we could go onto that page and see where they are, see if they're being advertised on that page. But it's the lesser of two evils. So what happens now is you've got the other dark web sites that are popping up, and there's several of them that are replacing some that we know about, some that we don't, and FBI, Homeland Security, all of those agencies work very close together to locate our children. Yemekinght, which is the National Missing Children, Missing and Exploited Children. All of these agencies work very, very closely behind the scenes, and they do an awesome job of bringing them down. There's cross-country things that happen throughout the year. They are very diligent in actively working, where they can. But it's in everybody's neighborhood. I always challenge people and say, Google your zip code. Google sex trafficking in your neighborhood, because people have that myth of thinking it's the man in the white van that's snatching you. That's absolutely not true. That's not what it is. It can be happening in your neighborhood, in local hotels, local airports, as you said, when you're traveling. You may not even know it. I talk about it wherever I go. If I go to my doctor's office, I ask them, how are you up to speed on human trafficking? And in even educating the doctors, what do you look for? And what would we look for? Well, if you've got somebody that's in there and they can't speak, and there's people that we know, are not comfortable speaking, and there's somebody with them, then you should be alarmed. So we can talk more about that, but there are lots of signs to look for when it comes to ID. Absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, speaking about the dark web, people are talking about Wayfair, and they're involved with sex trafficking. Do you know anything about that, or is that just rumors? Or
I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard anything about that. Again, there's so much out there. Nothing surprises me. And like I tell people, if you hear it, you want to investigate it, we don't talk about it, talk to it. We speak to it and we address it. We keep getting out there and making more and more people aware. That's how we, shut this down.
Wow. Now, I was getting flack. Like I said, I was going through a rabbit hole and just, there's a hashtag going around, Save Our Children, and I'm reposting stuff. And I really got satisfaction. I have a few people that inboxed me and even motivated me to spread the word more. And they inboxed me and said, thanks for sharing what you're sharing, awesome, because they had no idea what was going on. And I felt like, wow, this is worth it. Now,
awesome. Definitely.
What can we look for? What can we look for, or what can the listeners look for when they're out and about and to identify sex trafficking?
I can tell you that once you start getting involved, and like you said, you go in that rabbit hole, you don't stop, and it changes how you look at things. There's ways that COVID is the new norm right now, but I say to parents, be involved in your children. Know who they're talking to. Know who they're reaching on the web. Get so consumed with, they want to have their privacy. Well, if you know that they are wearing clothes that they can't afford, if you know they have very often a trafficker will give them a spare cell phone so you don't know they're communicating with them, know what your children are doing. And so if your child has a second cell phone, you should know why that is. If they're walking around in expensive tennis shoes, or somebody's paying for them to get their nails and their hair done, because again, the myth is it's always girls. It's not girls. There are young boys that are caught up in this. Do they report as often? No, because they go through the whole embarrassment of how and what they go through. But there are many boys, males, that are involved in this. So if your son has a computer or your daughter has a computer and you know they can't afford that, ask the right questions. Where is that money coming from? Because clearly somebody's paying for it. And what they don't realize is that trafficker will groom them for 3 months. You heard me say it's not about the white man snatching them. It's about that older boyfriend who makes them feel special. If they've never had a compliment and they're told they're beautiful, then that vulnerable child burns on that. So, now they're going to restaurants they've never eaten at. They're, getting their hair done. They're being told they're beautiful, they're lovely. And all of this, they're going to pay for. They're going to get back every single penny that they invest in a victim. So they don't see any of that money. And then when it's flipped on them and then they have to produce, they're in so deep, they don't know how to get out. So when we ask what we're looking for, know who your children are around, have conversations with your children and their friends, ask if they know anything about human trafficking, because they sometimes can educate you more than you can imagine. You know, there's several situations I can share, but one comes to mind from one of the children that was in my youth group, and she said she was working at a fast food place, and a trafficker was working there, and she knew because of the signs I'd given her to look for, and she said he was telling her, I can show you how to make more money. And so she said, Miss Candace, I thought immediately of what you'd warned us about. And so who would think that a trafficker would be working at a fast food place? But guess what? He'll make $12 an hour, but for what he's going to make, if he can recruit 2 or 3 children, he's making $1,000 a night off each of those children. So it's big business. It's the second largest business in the nation. And so when we talk about what we're looking for as employers, if you work at these fast food places, be aware of who you're hiring. If you know that, that vulnerable child is in your neighborhood, involve yourself. If you see them with the wrong people, when we go back to the normal of traveling, when you say, well, I'm traveling, what do I look for? If you're in a hotel and you see several men coming in and out of that hotel room, it's a red flag. And we have a hotline that you can call anonymously, and it does not affect you in any way. You don't have to give your name. You just have to give the details of what you see, and they will investigate that. And so, when people say, I don't want to get involved, well, don't get involved, but at least call the hotline and let somebody else get involved.
Now,
because if you see something, you should say something.
Now, what would be the best? What would be the best thing to do if you call the 800 number? How quick would they react? Would it be better call law enforcement, or
if you think it's an immediate thing, you can call law enforcement. That's the best way. It's 911. If it's something that you're recognizing, if you think I noticed something, or I don't necessarily want to call the police, at the very least, call the hotline. But absolutely, if it's something that you see is immediate, react as if you would if you saw anything else. Dial 911 and let them know, and if you feel that they're not taking it seriously, because the task force, again, they work very closely with the police officers in Maryland, and they train them on how to handle the victims, because they're exactly that. They're victims. They're our children. Now,
do you have the hotline number offhand?
Absolutely. It's a very easy number to remember. It's 1-888-373-7888.
7888. Awesome. You know what I'm going to do? From every podcast from now on, I'm going to, blurt out that number and try to get it ingrained in people's mind. Now, another question I have for you. I know that sex trafficking goes from, how young does it go down to babies all the way up to what age? Is there an age limit? What's the youngest victim you've known, I've heard of or seen or interact with, and the oldest?
Well, when I hear the youngest, the thing I think of is when they did a cross-country thing 2 years ago, and it was a young baby, a 6-month-old and a 5-year-old child that was sold to an undercover police officer. Thankfully, it was an undercover police officer, and that was in Denver. And so when we talk about the cross-country and you ask about the states uniting, they do. Those agencies come together. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, wow, that means that that's the first time probably that they saved that child, but it doesn't mean, or the first time they got caught, but it doesn't mean it was the first time that it happened, as we all know. So when you say youngest age, that is probably the youngest I've heard of. Again, people want what they want. These people they're just disgusting. And so pedophiles will order what they want. Even when we speak of our mental health, people with disabilities, that's another population that are targeted. So when we talk about sick people and sex selling, they want what they want.
Now, is there people actually, well, I kind of know the answer, but I want it coming from an expert. Is there people actually doing sexual things to babies?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I am sure there are.
I've heard stories.
If they're being sold undercover. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And people can Google the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force.
Hello?
With other task force. So that really,
hold on one second. There you go.
Sure.
You we couldn't hear you for about 15 seconds. So as you were saying,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I said they can go to the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force, and we will get them information in the different states if people are interested. That really is key. There are, several other things that they can Google. There's a wealth of information out there if people want to get involved.
Wow. Now, how do they get these victims? I mean, do they steal them? Do they get them from adopting agency? Is it like, just agencies?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. And again, another great question, because I told you there's a lot of myths.
Right.
We always say it's not the movie Taken. That's not what it is. It's not the snatching them in the parking lot. When you hear the word grooming and they're talking about grooming these children, they come after children. It can be in a mall. I remember one of the ex-pimps saying, in the mall he goes, and it can be as simple as him saying, if I tell a girl she's got beautiful eyes and she looks down, that's the one I want. If she talks back, that's not the one I want. And why is that? Because she's easily controlled. The vulnerable one is the one that's easily controlled. She's not been told she's beautiful, and she's never heard those compliments. That's what they go for. So there are ways that they have, their current victims that they send into the schools. As I said, they recruit within the schools. It can be them telling their friends, let's skip school and come and hang out with my boyfriend. He's older, he'll be good to us. It's recruiting. That's exactly what it is. And so there's so many ways that they get the kids. Some of the gangs, they just had a major bust in Virginia, Woodbridge, Virginia last week. I posted up on the website, and it was a ring, I think, of about 17 traffickers, and they trafficked them between Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. So there's so many ways, and we haven't said anything about this, but there's also what we refer to as familial trafficking, and that is where a family member traffics a child. It can be as simple as that's how they get their rent paid. On the first of the month, that child has to sleep with the landlord. That's familial trafficking. So there's so many avenues to this, and there's so much that you could, we do all-day trainings on these. So you can imagine, the amount of information that is out there.
Well, then how do these sickos get these kids say, okay, I understand like the preteens and stuff like at the malls and on the computers, but how about the young ones like 5 and under, or like 5 to 10? How do they get caught up in it? Is that
there's the foster care system where these kids are runaways, where they can't keep hold of the kids are runaways. The younger kids, some of the parents are giving away their kids. There's so much to it. With the younger kids, it's money, and so if you've got people that are giving up their kids into the trafficking world, that's it. It really is. It's a sick, sick world.
Wow. Well, I got a few emails from the listeners. Would you mind answering some?
Oh, not at all.
Okay, here we go. I got the old school sound effect right here, AOL.
You've got mail.
Remember that?
Yes.
All right. This first question's from a longtime listener, Jesus Walker, and he emailed lyricalspit@gmail.com. It says, for many years, you have heard about the Catholic priest molesting little boys. Obviously, it's still going on. Seems like it always gets swept under the table. Why?
I can't answer why, but what I can answer is this is why I do what I do as a volunteer, because we need that awareness out there. And so that's why I do what I do, because there's so much that's swept under the rug that it's key that that listener can get himself involved and be a part of the solution and get it out there, whether you have organizations, whether you belong to other organizations. Any time that you can have somebody come out and speak on this, if we inform 5 people, that's 5 more people that are informed. So I say that to say I don't know why it gets swept under, but I agree 100%. It has to be exposed. And the only way we can expose is to make sure that we are getting the word out there. That's what the public awareness does.
Oh, there you go. Okay, another email from Linda Rue, and she emailed lyricalspit@gmail.com. Why hasn't Hollywood spoken up about this human sex trafficking? They always seem to be the first to speak on things. What happened to the Me Too movement? I believe Hollywood is a cesspool, and they are quiet because they are guilty. Your thoughts?
My thoughts, and these are my personal thoughts.
Okay.
She's on point. And so this is my own personal opinion. I believe that a lot of people say, if we act like it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Yeah, right. So again, as I said, Catholic priests, Hollywood, all of this needs to be exposed. And that's why we need more and more and more public awareness.
You know, I was talking with this producer out of Hollywood. We were going to work on a project, and it never panned out, but it was a few years ago, and he was telling me some dirt in Hollywood, you know, not about pedophile stuff, but just some shady stuff, you know, going on there. And I was shocked, you know, the names that came out, and he mentioned some names, and it did come out on the news. And that being said, I knew an artist. She was telling me that, you know, that she performed at the Playboy Mansion, and that she had an encounter with Hugh Hefner and Harvey Weinstein, and nothing happened with her, but she said they both tried, and that's why she didn't. That's why she didn't move there. She you know, left, and she's doing well. She told me she would never move to Hollywood, and that a lot of artists, you know, gave her props because, you know, how some, you know, do
she
things.
Walked away.
Yeah, she, you know, and you know, she has a successful career, and
excellent.
Yeah, but I lost the train of thought. But you know, I'm just saying it. I heard a lot about Hollywood, and it's funny how they're all quiet now. But that's
absolutely right. And it takes for one bold person to step forward, and then everybody else comes forward. And again, to your listener's point, you know, what's going on with Me Too? You know, it really is amazing how so much stuff does get swept under the rug. You know, there are some people that fight for trafficking in the celebrity world. I know Jada Pinkett Smith is huge on fighting for anti-trafficking, and a few others. But we need more of it. We absolutely need more of it. It just has to be exposed.
Well, you know what's funny is that I don't know if you watched the Golden Globes last year, Ricky Gervais. I loved it. Okay, he was on. The first thing he said was, I'm paraphrasing. He goes, "This will probably be my last time up here," and they had, you know, you know, a few known, you know, people that, you know, mess with underage girls and stuff, you know, actors and stars. And first thing he said was, you could Google on YouTube or watch it on YouTube. I can't remember exactly what he said, but pretty much he said that, are you guys upset that you can't ride on Epstein's plane anymore? And he kept on taking jabs at him, and you could look at each one of their faces and you could tell, oh, they look guilty. But I loved it. It's like a 10-minute clip on YouTube, and he outed everybody. And right when I saw that, I got a lot of phone calls. You know, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But I got one more email here, and it says, Dobashi, I know you don't want to make this political. This is from Betty, and she emailed lyricalspit.com, and it says, Dobashi, I know you don't want to make this political, but your post on Facebook was spot on. Former President Bill Clinton speaking at the DNC convention is a slap to all the victims. The question is for Candace. Do you think the elite pedophilers will ever get convicted?
Again, and I know I sound like a broken record with this, but this is exactly why I feel like a lot of people walk away and do get away with it And, you know, again, the more people that unite, the more people like yourself, Dobashi, that keep putting this out there is, you know, that's the answer to how we bring people down. So, you know, if we all turn a blind eye and think, well, it's not happening in my backyard, then they continue to get away with it. But the more people like yourself that are willing to have us talk about it, and they're not turning a blind eye, and they are saying we want to hear it, the more we get, you know, we stand a chance. So do I feel a lot of people get away with it? Absolutely. You know, but they've got that coverage. And so that's why we need to expose people for what they're doing.
Now, with this whole Epstein thing and Maxwell, got arrested, and someone sent me all the flight logs from court papers. Someone got a hold of the court papers and emailed them to me. It was hard to read the signatures, and then I got the whole what do you want to call it? What do you call it? Deposition or the
deposition,
the files. I got those two.
The discovery or whatever.
Yeah. I didn't get. It was a lot of page. I haven't read it yet. But do you think anything's going to come out of it? Do you think anyone's going to get arrested? Do you think someone's going to be a fall guy? Because I honestly believe if they sweep this under the rug, that I don't think this ever, heaven forbid, I don't think this ever is going to be. It's good. Put it this way, I think it's going to be a long, hard fight to get all these sickles, behind bars or.
Oh yeah. And again, it's that money and that power, right?
Right.
All of your people ask all of those questions tonight. I think that's one thing we all agree with, that money talks. And so that money and power is where a lot of this does get swept under the rug. And so, if there were 15 people guilty or 50 people guilty, some of those people who have that money and power will never be outed because, there's that cover up. They know who to and how to, and let's be honest, when we talk about the Johns aren't all, they're everyday people. They're people in power and so they say that. I often say, what happens if you've got a victim, and I use this as an example, and what happens if she gets brought before a judge and the judge was the person she served the night before? So, that's reality. And so, you don't know. There's so many people. I spoke, a very large IT company. I spoke to 342 of their executives 2 years ago in Florida. And the one thing I said to them, your executives traveling. And so I know you see things and they're say things. And I'm sure there's probably a buyer in this room. If there is, please don't raise your hand. But what I do say to you is, the next time you roll off of a 14-year-old boy or girl, please remember that's somebody's child.
Yes.
And the whole room went dead quiet. So what I've been on a mission with this past year is, addressing the Johns, because without Johns, there are no victims, right? So
exactly.
You can't just always focus on the victim. The victim is definitely our person we're saving, but we have to look at it full service. When they were dragging our kids into courts and charging them for prostitution at 12 and 14 years old, how is that possible?
Wait,
it's only been
wait a minute. Wait. They're charging the kids for prostitution?
They were. And so the last few years, that's why we have our legislation committees that go and fight this. And so how is that possible? So over the last few years, the laws have changed. But why was it ever allowed like that? So the Johns would walk free, the traffickers would walk free, and our kids were the ones being charged for this. And the laws have changed over the last few years. The state, a child under the age of 18 is exactly that, a child. And they cannot make a conscious decision. They're being trafficked. And there's a difference between prostitution and trafficking.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so much. We could do a 4-hour show on this, but it's a lot of food for thought. Trust me.
Well, okay. Hopefully, good will prevail. So, your opinion. I hate bringing this case up, but this whole Maxwell Epstein case. Do you think there's going to be justice served?
I don't think justice will ever be served, but what you said earlier, will there be a fall guy? It wouldn't surprise me, because they always find a way around it. So do we hope that these people will be revealed? Do we hope these people that have been covered up, that whole elite surrounding? I just think that, they need to be exposed. They absolutely do. But will they? Who knows?
Now,
Who knows? Yeah.
Now, how does the organization for the human sex trafficking get funded? Donations or how?
Well, we the nonprofits, and there are several agencies, the NGOs that do service, our victims, our survivors. The task force, Maryland Task Force, is not funded. So all of us that work with them, we are all volunteers. And so the website, I maintain the website. I, fund the website. The different entities, the U.S. Attorney's Office, State Attorney's Office, Office of the Attorney General, they've all come together to form this task force that's been in existence since about 2007. So the task force, there are a couple of local task forces that do have a budget. Maryland does not, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't stop us. Because again, if you're passionate about something, you make it happen. And so, that's sort of where we're at with that. The other NGOs and non-government offices, some of them do have grants and funds. Housing has been a big issue the past few years. This year, there was finally a grant that can help some of us get these survivors housed. There are several small agencies that do toiletries and clothing. I have a website, it's fresh-waters.org, and, I connect people with the different organizations for services. So again, everybody does what they do because they care, and that's really what it comes down to.
Okay, well, before we end the show, is there any last words? Is there anything that the listeners can help out in any way? Go ahead. This is your forum, and just take it away.
Thank you so much. Again, my website is fresh-waters.org. The Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force. The website, you can contact me through that. I am on Instagram, Freshwater CST. I am happy to get people involved. And when you say, how can you help? At the very, very least, if you will host something for public awareness, again, there's no cost. If you're in your industry of work, please allow us to do a Zoom call just to make people aware. Dobashi, I cannot thank you enough for doing this evening. We need more of this, and that's how people can help.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. It was an honor to have you on. And I want you to come back on again, like really, really soon. And I love spreading the word. And thank you. And I will put all the links on our website, and I'll have I'll push the phone number. And like I said, you're welcome back at any time. Please, everyone, go to lyricalspit.com for all related show links. And I will end this show with Maisie Peters, Sad Girl Summer. Until next time, #save our children, and Epstein didn't kill himself.
Thank you.
One of us was married to an ex-marine with a blonde down the block. He said commitment's scary. Then he left her alone with a house and a dog. So she ran to daddy, and he said that man's a loser. Call your friends up. And we pulled a chair up. Oh, pass your phone to the right. Text the next love goodbye. It's another sad girl summer. Towers on the side of the road, traveling beside each other. No one has to dance on their own. Oh, so take my hand and lose his number. You don't have to have another sad girl summer. Raise your glass, let it go. coke unsteady. So we're secretly staging an intervention. Change your shoes, get ready. That boy is such a loser. Put your hair up. And she pulls a chair up. Pass your phone to the right. Text him next, love, goodbye. It's another sad girl song. Flowers on the side of the road. Traveling beside each other. No one has to dance on their own low. So take my hand and lose his number. You don't have to have another sad girl song. Raise your glass, let it go. Find your lip gloss, blow a kiss for, get the boy ever existed. Find your lip gloss, blow a kiss for, get the boy ever existed. Pass your phone to the right. Text him next, love, goodbye. It's another side.